to the Newtown Township Board of Supervisors meeting for November 25th, 2020. Oh, gee, that's right, 2020. Boy, I forgot what year it was. Exactly. Before we get into our meeting, just a moment of silence, and also that I just ask you to remember all those that have been affected by this horrible virus and their families. And while we're in the Thanksgiving season, giving thanks basically for our families and hopefully everybody's health and welfare, but also for those who are on the front lines, the doctors, nurses, EMTs, police, fire, and all those who answer the call of duty unselfishly. And let us not forget our everyday important essential workers, the garbage collectors, the supermarket workers, food servers, just to name a few. And here in our township, let's give thanks for our management, our administrative staff, our public works department. All together, they keep our township running. Let us not forget to support our local businesses the best we can. And in doing so, let us not forget to tip the workers a good tip. Most of all, let us treat all people with respect and kindness, and together as a community, we will be stronger when this is over. If we all will just bow our heads for a few seconds here. Will you stand with the board for a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Lewis, any changes or additions to the agenda tonight?
I have two changes, Mr. Chairman. First of which, item 10A1, the Planning Commission report, will be moved up after item number 5. And item 11I, related to the Arcadia lot line change, has been removed from the agenda.
Okay, so we have no special actions tonight. I think we're going to bring up Mr. Fiddler now under committees.
Good evening. Alan Fiddler, Chairman of Newtown Township Planning Commission. Before I begin, I think I'd like to give you, sitting in front of us, a great thank you for all the service that you provide to the township residents, as well as all the community volunteers that serve on boards and commissions in the township. We are better served to have people as dedicated as you help to participate in bringing good government to Newtown Township. So thank you very much. Here to give you a quick synopsis of our November 17, 2020 meeting. We had 3 zoning hearing board applications. The first was Christina McAdams at 6 Ginger Court. Here the commission recommended that the Board of Supervisors support the application for a 6-foot privacy fence at the rear yard, which backs onto North-South Drive. And it is consistent with other approvals that have been granted in the neighborhood. The second one was Jinsu Zhang at 1 Morton Circle. Here the commission recommended the supervisors again support this application of a side yard setback relief for a patio with pergola on an odd-shaped lot with a shallow side yard. The third was a Geyer/Worthington at 208 North Sycamore Street. Here the commission recommended that the supervisors support the application for signage at the promenade. This requested relief is consistent with variances granted to the other businesses at this location, and of course this would be subject to HARB review. We had a PRD variance for Mark and Diane Libiasi at 18 Alyssa Drive. The commission again recommended that the supervisors approve the PRD for a roof over an existing deck subject to the conditions that the applicant comply with the review letters of Vernick and CKS and attempt to mitigate additional runoff caused by the increase in impervious surface. On the lot line change, Arcadia Holdings / Newtown Reformed Church, the Commission recommended that the Board of Supervisors grant the request for a lot line change for these two properties, subject to the conditions that the applicant again comply with the review letters of Remington and Vernick Engineering dated October 20, 2019, CKS Engineering dated November 12, 2019, and the Bucks County Planning Commission dated November 15, 2019, without prejudice. The last item on our agenda was JMZO amendment, the definition of family. The purpose of this ordinance is to grant the municipalities a way to regulate the use of residential properties for short-term rentals, such as Airbnb. The members were uncomfortable with the ordinance as it was presented and asked that the following footnote be added for adoption. Our intention in this ordinance is to express our concerns for the stability and permanency of the neighborhoods and not to pass judgment on the lifestyle choices of those who live in the household for an extended period of time. We seek only to avoid transiency, which tends to disrupt the sense of community and shared commitment to the common good. Albert versus Zoning Hearing Board of North Abington Township, 854.A 2D 401 410 PA 204. There is no intent to discriminate, either expressed or implied, beyond the stated meanings herein. That ends the quote. With this footnote, the Planning Commission recommends that the board authorize advertisement of the supported amendment with this footnote inclusion. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Alan?
Do we need to go back to the jointure after this is advertised for the definition of family?
You know, Dennis, I would have to defer to Jerry regarding whether this is substantive change as it's presented, and if it is, it'll have to go back through the process. But again, I think that's for the legal minds on the other side of the room to decide.
Yeah, Jerry and I agree that this should probably be communicated to the jointure municipalities in the form of a letter or a memo that can be sent by email, certainly. But the request that this footnote be added to the text of the ordinance amendment has to be communicated to them in some way.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that, well, I don't think it's been advertised yet.
Okay.
So we don't have to, I haven't heard that it's been advertised. Everybody's reviewing it. So, right. So it doesn't have to be, it doesn't matter whether it's a substantive change or not as far as advertising goes. But they may want to say, okay, Newtown, if the board is okay with adding this footnote, then we're going to add it, and maybe Upper Makefield and Wrightstown want to take another look at it and comment on the footnote.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the next step.
Okay. Very good.
Great, thank you. And I did notice all the zoning hearing board applicants had letters from their neighbor in their packets, so that's really good.
We generally do recommend that they do incorporate, and I believe the applicants did already have letters in their possession from their HOAs and their neighbors, but we again indicated that they should present them as part of their testimony in front of the zoning hearing board. So, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for Alan?
That's it.
That's it.
Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving
You too.
and stay
Thank you,
healthy.
Alan. Take care.
All right.
Next on our agenda is public comment. Anyone who would like to make a public comment of anything that is not on the agenda, please feel free to come up to the podium.
Public comment?
Yeah, something that's not on the agenda tonight, you can come up. But if you're here about the budget or anything, we're going to get to that topic. And actually, that is the next topic, the 2021 budget, and this is an authorization to advertise adoption of the preliminary budget. Mr. Sander, can you just give a definition to what we're doing tonight?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, thank you. This is on the agenda before the board for consideration of a motion to authorize the advertisement that the proposed 2021 budget for Newtown Township is available for inspection by the public, both here at the Township Building during regular business hours and on the Township's website. And this is not enacting the budget tonight. The second-class Township Code requires every second-class township to adopt a proposed budget first, advertise it for at least 20 days to make it available for inspection by the public, and then at a regular meeting that's at least 20 days down the line to then consider that budget as the final budget for 2021.
Okay. And in the interim, can there be changes made to this budget?
Yes, there can.
All right. I will entertain a motion to authorize to advertise the adoption of the preliminary budget for the 2021 budget.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions from the board on the motion to advertise?
I have a question about changes. Can it, I see in the, this second-class Township Code, Section 3202, that if we made changes that increased the expenditures or revenues by more than a certain percentage, that we would have to re-advertise this for 10 days. But this does not say anything about if we were to decrease revenues or expenses. Is that correct? So if we wanted to decrease the expenditures or revenues, we would not have to delay this for 10 extra days by advertising. Is that correct?
Correct. Let me just, I'm going to open the second-class Township Code up right here, and I want to give the board direct and immediate advice that is accurate. Upon any revision of the proposed budget, if the estimated revenues or expenses in the final budget are increased more than 10% in the aggregate or more than 25% in any major category over the proposed budget, it may not be legally adopted with these increases unless it is again advertised once, the same as the original proposed budget, and an opportunity given to taxpayers to examine the amended proposed budget. So you are correct, Mr. Mack, when you say that only increases of those reference percentages would trigger the requirement to re-advertise.
And so if we were to authorize this advertisement, would this be, I mean, given that tomorrow's a holiday, how does this work in the terms of the timeline of 20 days?
20 days starts to run from the date that the advertisement appears in the newspaper.
And when do you propose, when do you think that might be?
That'll be Friday.
Friday? And so at the same time on Friday, it would be available on the website?
Hopefully, if it was authorized to be advertised, we would have it up on the website either this evening or tomorrow morning.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
And
Thank you.
then,
Any other questions?
what would be the 20 days past, I haven't done the math yet, would be like December 17th?
December 17th. I think the 20th day, if it was in the paper on November 27th, I'm looking at my calendar, it would, 7/14, the 20th day is December 17th.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll open it up to the public on the motion to adopt the proposed budget. You can come up to the podium. If you have questions on the budget in general, we will have old business and new business at the end of the meeting, but if you have it on the proposal to adopt,
To advertise.
to advertise, rather.
So while he's walking up, we will, in old business, new business, talk about this some more.
If you want to, yes.
Yeah, if we want.
We don't have to.
I have a very quick question to the supervisor.
Just need your name and,
Sure. My name is Ash Kamat, and we as residents, nearly 300 of us, want to ensure that the supervisors have got the document that we sent them on the petition, and it was emailed to everyone, and we do hope you will take cognizance of the fact that we are getting more signatures as well from the residents. So we do hope the residents' wishes will also be, the taxpayers' wishes will also be taken into consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I did receive it, and I think others did too.
anyone else? Yes, sir.
Greg Garber, 30 Union Street, Newtown Crossing. I just had a question, I'm not sure I heard properly. There's no restriction on decreasing the proposed budget from 178% down? You don't have to redo a whole reoffering or whatnot?
Adjustments can be made to the proposed budget that decrease either the expenditures or the revenues or both without triggering the requirement to re-advertise the availability of the budget for public inspection. You only have to re-advertise for availability for public inspection if it's increased up to those percentages that I mentioned.
All right. I don't like the percentage of budget you're proposing, but as long as we have the opportunity to decrease it without going through a bunch of legalization again with reoffering and whatnot, that was what I want to clarify. Thank you.
I think we should note that it's not, the current budget does not stand at 178% increase. It's more like 133%.
133.
Anyone else, public comment? Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, good evening. My name is Kevin Mulderrick. My wife Eileen and I are from Upper Southampton. We're here tonight on behalf of my son and his future wife, who are buying a house in Tyler Park. You may find it of interest. They are literally on the Omaha Beach in the first wave in the war against COVID. He's an RN in the ICU at Lankenau. She's an RN in the ICU at Jefferson. Both of whom are taking care of COVID patients tonight on ventilators. So I just want to make sure I understand the protocol correctly. After tonight, you advertise on Friday. It's 20 days goes by. What happens at the end of the 20 days after the advertisement?
The proposed budget will, Mr. Chairman, is it okay if I respond?
Yeah, go right
Thank you. The proposed budget will come before the Board of Supervisors for consideration to adopt it as the final budget.
Okay. Do we have a date for that, or is that set yet, or no?
Can't be before December 17th. It will require a special meeting. It will, we meet on the 22nd of December.
Right, correct.
It'll right now, it's December 22nd.
Understood. Will all that information be on the website along with the proposed
Yes.
budget? Okay, very good. And will there be opportunity for further public comments and questions prior to the 22nd, or is that the night you want to bring your questions and comments?
We have a meeting in between, I believe.
Yeah, there's a meeting on
There will be another public meeting.
On
If-
December 9th.
If anyone wanted to come in and make comments, they can.
Very good. Okay,
Yeah, December 9th.
appreciate it. Thank you much.
Sure. You're welcome. Anyone else for public comment on the adoption of the budget? Come on.
Yes, Mike Lee's the name. I live at 22 Delaware Court, Newtown Crossing. A couple of questions I have. It's supposedly a 133% increase in the budget. Is that correct? Is that what was proposed?
It's 133% in the tax millage rate.
What does that mean? I just don't understand.
You have 4.5 mils of real estate tax that go to the township right now. It's proposed to be 5.99.
Well, something in
added-
the newsletter about 193 or something like that per dollars increase.
Can I, Mr. Chairman, I think we have a chart that may show, sometimes it's better in dollars and cents than in percentage. And if it could be put on our monitors for people to see, it's been broken down by different categories of home prices. And we're not going to have every home price out there, but it's just going to give some sort of idea of what your increase would be in that category of your home and assessment. So saying 178%, 130%, but when it comes down to dollars and cents, maybe it's more visible and comprehensible.
Well, what would be the total the township would collect on the increase?
Well, I mean, depending on the size of your home and what it's valued, I mean,
No, I mean a general increase. How much would the township bring in?
how much would the township bring in?
I think what he's asking is what is 5 point whatever the additional millage is, what does that translate into dollars and cents?
Almost $2 million, is it?
Well, $2 million, it's $2,256,567 to the general fund.
Right.
But that
Well, what's
doesn't
the
include.
general fund now? How much is the general
Zero,
fund?
at zero,
How much?
zero.
It's zero. There is
Zero.
no general fund?
There's no millage associated with the general fund right now.
No millage, no
Right.
millage associated with the general fund. How much, are you asking how much money is in the general fund right now?
Right.
Oh, that's a different story. That's not really what the budget is about so much as planning for next year. But
It just seems at a time with COVID, when there's so many people laid off and so many people struggling, that 133% increase of anything sounds like an awful lot. I don't see any reaction to that. It just seems like, hey, pay it. That's it.
Well, we're residents too. We feel the increase among us. But again, when you break it down, someone who has the luxury of living in $1 million home is only paying $2.80 a day. Okay? I know that's not garbage, that's the truth, but we have it broken down. Anybody wants to take the paper home with them, they can. It's all been calculated. So, like I said, 178% of $1 is $2.78.
Now, are the homes going to be reassessed for millage?
not that we know of. That's a
Yeah,
county,
that's up
that's a
to the
function of the county.
To decide.
So if the county does do that, then it would be an increase more than what you're saying.
It's unlikely to happen.
Well,
Some properties will go up and some properties will go
Yeah,
down.
some properties will be assessed lower, some properties higher. There's no direct correlation to what they were going, what
It
they
doesn't
were
look like
doing.
Newtown Township has too many homes that would be decreased in value.
No, that's a.
Would somebody agree with that or disagree?
I don't know, what did you, I didn't catch
What
you
was the
said.
question?
I don't think there's too many homes in Newtown Township that would be rated lower, or their value would be lower or decreased,
But the county,
or their
Mr.
taxable,
Sanders,
or taxable value, whatever you want to
It's
call it.
neither here nor there, because there's absolutely no plans or even mention of a countywide reassessment. Hasn't been done since 1971 or 73 or whatever.
Well, COVID was never done before either, and we suddenly had it. I mean, that's not.
But you're arguing in hypotheticals. That really doesn't have to do with our budget.
Well, it has to do with the people's pocketbook if you do increase it, doesn't it?
I would
It
say
hasn't
that
happened.
if the county did do a countywide.
I mean, what do you
rate-
do with people who can't afford to pay this?
They would get a lien against their property.
Put a lien on their
So
house,
when
so
they
you
go
get
to,
it from them
when they
somehow.
eventually sell their house, they'd have to pay that off.
Right.
I had, typically, public comment is not a time to go back and forth. I mean, certainly it can. I do have a response for you. I was going to save it until new business, old business. My response is this, if I can be indulged. Think ahead 6 months. think ahead a year from now. 6 months from now is the first time we can pay on this tax bill. The bills won't come out until we enact it before December 31st. The bills won't come out until March 1st, the first week of March. The first month of March and April, you get a discount. In May and June, you pay face value. After June, you can not pay it. You might get a penalty. Last year, the penalties were shifted. I don't know if that would happen again this year. But aren't we hopeful, and aren't we hearing that the vaccine is coming? And that things are going to be improving?
It's going to be 95% effective. And there's 5% of the people who can still get it.
So things, the business community will be opening up in 6 months from now, 7 months from now. And a year from now, I mean, I pray that this is over. And we still have time to pay that bill.
It's a hypothetical, though. You don't know that it's going to be over in 6 months or a year.
We don't know it, but we
do
have
know
good
this is
reason to
definite.
think. What's that?
We do know that this tax increase would be definite.
When it's enacted, when and if it's enacted, yes. It's $26 a month for me. I live in Newtown too.
Yeah, but there are some people.
I work at a food bank. I know this is real. And we all are dealing with it. Some of us have a little better, easier way with it. But I also want to emphasize that cutting all the services in the township is not a good deal either.
What services? I pay for my own trash removal. I don't get the services from the community.
Police, fire, roads. You get your roads plowed in the wintertime. I don't want to argue with you. I just want to make it clear that this bill that we're paying now is for next year. I have an escrow. I'm not going to see that hit my escrow account until next year in December. We're paying from last year now. And in fact, I would suggest that we did the right thing by not doing a tax increase last year. Because now we're not paying extra this year. We'll pay extra next year. I mean, I'm not arguing, I'm just pointing it out, and I haven't heard anybody say anything about that. And in all practicality, that's the way it works.
But it is working.
What's working?
The township is working.
Yes.
And we're saying 126 or 133, whatever percentage increase in mill this is, it's needed, right?
I have a vision for us going forward that we do economic development, we do grant writing, we do interagency, municipality agreements.
I understand all that. All that is top level. But what about the bottom level, the guy that lives at home and he and his wife are both unemployed?
All those things impact the budget.
We'll put a lien on their house
the budget
when
going
they try to sell it.
All those things impact our revenue sources for the budget. And it takes pressure off having to raise taxes.
How does that take pressure off?
Having intergovernmental agreements that might
No.
I'm
just talking about
use our services.
Joe Blow and Mary Blow live in the township. They have a home. They're both unemployed. We're going to give them a tax increase. A big tax increase.
And I'm not going to argue with you about the size of the tax increase and how it impacts you, because that's you.
What doesn't impact me? To be honest, it doesn't
$26 a
impact
month
me.
for me is very manageable.
It's not a whole lot. But that's not my point. When you put out terms like 133 or 100 and some percent, that's an awful lot. That sounds like a lot to anybody who reads it.
Well, let me...
If your household budget went up by that amount, what would you say?
If we were not to raise taxes, no, we're not surviving. We would be deficit spending down well over $1 million. Our earned income taxes dropped probably $1 million in a combination of Lockheed Martin and other
Oh,
townships
so
that
what
instituted
happened
it.
to you was that your investments went down.
Well,
What about the
well-
small guy whose investments went down?
There's also things that we haven't even taken into consideration, which is maybe taxing people's pension money, passive income. There are people out there that are getting passive income that are not contributing to the EIT. Now, I don't think anyone wants to see us tax retired people with their pensions, but what we're doing is trying to compensate that by making a equitable tax increase, which again is nominal in dollars and cents. It's not even a cup of coffee a day in some cases. Oh, depending on where you get your coffee, I have no
Yeah,
idea.
depending on where you live.
Yeah, but anyway, if we do not do this, if we do not have a tax increase, we have the possibility of losing a lot more than what we're going to gain.
No, I'm not saying, I'm
We
not
have
against the
it-
tax increase. What I'm saying to you is if you said to me,
Mhm.
we're increasing taxes by 33%, I'd say, boy, that's a lot. You're not saying that. You're saying 130-some percent.
That's because the budgets were never increased incrementally during the last 10 years.
But whose fault is that?
Prior boards.
Oh, so you guys are the heroes. 'Cause you're
Well,
gonna do it.
we could either not pass anything tonight,
Or-
cut maybe 2 or 3 police officers, cut a couple firemen, because they're the only ones that have the income that would affect our
Well, how much
budget.
of an increase are they getting?
Excuse me?
How much of an increase are they getting?
How much of well, that's their contract. You want to see their contract? I mean,
No, I didn't
They're-
ask you
they're
about their
contracted.
contract now. How much are they getting in the future? This is
I
all talking
believe
about
it's,
future,
what did he get?
3%.
3% per year, 3% increase.
3%.
But,
Doesn't sound like a
we
whole lot.
we could cut a couple police officers, we could cut a couple firemen, and God forbid if something were to happen, they're not going to be there to call on you. We could not buy them police cars, and maybe they'll be driving the jalopy out to call, and a car breaks down. So, I mean, there's things that we're doing.
So you turn it around that it's somebody else's fault that it's increased. Do you understand what I'm
No,
saying?
I've been on this board for
If
3
you're
years.
telling me, hey, police
I'll
officers getting a
accept what
3%
I haven't
raise,
done.
Yeah.
but you're getting 133% increase in millage or whatever you want to call it. You know, the
On a
terms
small-
don't sit with me. The
When you s-
133% just doesn't stick.
Well, maybe, again, I hate to say.
I mean, if somebody come up
I
to you
hate-
and said, we're doing a 33%
I hate to
increase
keep
on
saying
your
this
pension
because I don't
or your
want to sound
budget or
like a
something,
broken
you'd say, oh,
record.
that's a lot.
But I don't know what your situation is or whatever. I mean, for all I know, you could be a multimillionaire. I mean, I really don't care. But the whole thing is your school board is taxing you every year at least 5% per year
An increase.
in increases. And they're going to keep taxing you. And they just sit there and nobody goes to them. You're paying 85% of your tax bill goes to the school district. We collect about 2% of your tax bill, your total tax bill. 3%, okay, I'm sorry.
So you're telling me, if you only break my leg, it's okay, but if you break my skull, it's not okay. I mean, you're using an excuse that I can't
Well,
find.
I guess
I'm dealing with you, I'm not dealing with the
we're
school
going to
board.
have to agree to disagree then. But I want to see when the school board
Forget the
increases-
school board, I want to
I
see
want-
when, this is the
well,
Newtown Township.
Yeah, but when you look at your tax bill and see 3% of that total tax bill comes to the township, and what you're getting for is police protection, fire protection, public works, roads, administration, park and recs, if you have a grandchild or whatever in the park and rec system. Now, for that 3%, you're getting all that. For the 85, 90%, I don't see the school board sending a police officer out to your house, or if there's a fire, the police, the school board, fire department coming out to your house. So for your 3%, look at what you're getting from this township, as opposed to your 85% of what you're getting, which is nothing from the school district.
All right, here's my question, what am I getting from the township?
You
I'm
could
getting
come
the
up-
fact
You
that-
could come up later when you've done. Yeah, I mean, this is a motion to advertise the budget, so,
I thought you said it was a motion to advertise the budget, and the budget's going to be 133% increase,
well, it's
right?
to advertise, we're not approving the budget tonight, this is to advertise, so this way it could go out to the public so they can see it. And there'll be further discussions about the budget at our next meeting or later on this evening. So, I mean, it's not that the discussion is over.
In the emails, I've been reading all the emails.
That's good.
You have to get yourself on a mailing list?
No,
Because
no, you
I
can
don't get
send-
anything from the
You
township.
can send emails in anytime you want.
I don't get it. I mean, I have to look it up, I guess.
It's on the website.
It's on the website.
Okay.
You could send an email to us and ask questions to the board and anytime you want. You don't have to wait till the next meeting. You could send an email as soon as you go home. If you think of something, send an email into the board, and we look at all the emails that come in.
It just looks to me that most of these hearings are just done, just to placate the law. Has nothing to do with the people, what really they say. That's just my opinion.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Do I need to leave this on? Okay. Okay. My name is Jonathan Siemens. My wife and I live in Newtown Grant with our 2 kids. I just want to make sure before I ask the questions I have before that I wrote down before that I understood. Did you just say that we don't get anything from the schools? Because that's what it sounded like.
Well, let me reiterate. You don't get police protection.
No, but that's not what
You
the
don't get
school's
fire
for. You're right.
Hey,
And people won't want to come and live in Newtown if the schools are terrible.
And
You
they
know
will-
that.
How about if there's no police protection? Will they want to come and live in
No.
Newtown? If
No,
there's
but
no
you can't
fire
say that-
protection, they won't come.
No, but-
Hey, my kids went through the Council Rock School District. I'm not complaining about the school district. What I'm complaining about is they raise taxes every year. And you could go look on Zillow, and Zillow will tell you. I'm just saying, for what we're giving the citizens, which is police protection, fire protection, and so on, the school board is not giving you that.
No, but they are
collect-
giving a K through 12 education.
Well, yeah, and they build an $85 million high school with no pool, no football field, and so on. And talk about, somebody was asking about the increases to the police in their salaries. I'd like to know the increase in the teacher salaries per year.
Well, that contract,
Of which, well, I understand, of which,
can I talk?
well, you asked me a question.
I know, I asked you if you really said,
And
we
I'm-
get nothing from the school.
And I'm
That's a
answering
yes
you.
or no question.
Well, nothing, again, in regards to services.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to have to agree to disagree on that one. So, as you said to that gentleman, I apologize if there's more information available. This is the report I'm working off of that I got off of your website. And I'll first just start with a comment, which is that I've worked in government and education finance since 1996. And I don't think I've ever seen at the state and local level, and I don't think I've ever seen a financial report that didn't have any charts in it. It's kind of funny that, I mean, this is all Word documents, and there's not one chart in here that has here's what our revenues are, here's what our expenses are, here's what the bottom line is. So if there's another report that has that, if you could point me in that direction, that would be fantastic. I'm sorry? So,
That report is right here,
oh,
and when it's authorized for advertisement, you can get it on the website.
awesome, thank you. But you have to admit that it's hard for people to be able to make comment on a budget when they can't actually see the budget. Like, this is Mr. Lewis's summary of the budget. And that's not really,
That's correct.
for somebody who wants to look at the numbers. I know, because I've written reports like this, you can pick and choose the way you want to tell that story. And I think that's part of what the problem or the frustrations that some of these people are expressing tonight. So if you got to just ask a couple more questions, one of the members said that for that 178% increase, that will result in about $2 million in additional revenue for the town. What was the ending balance, bottom line, for the town at the end of fiscal year 20?
Initially, it was about 1.3 million.
Positive.
Positive, correct.
Okay. So are there $2 million in additional expenditures that have happened since last year that are now necessitating a 178% increase to bring in all that additional funding? Is the board planning on, I know there's descriptions of, positions that may be needed. I'm assuming we had to pay this consultant to come in and do the development of a 5-year plan. That's another one of my questions, like, why couldn't you guys have done that? Isn't that what you got elected for?
Can I answer that?
Yeah, please.
Real briefly. The reason we went to an outside consultant is because they are proficient in doing this kind of study. Plus, we also got a 50% grant, so we didn't pay full price for this. We did get a grant. I think our cost of that was $37,000, of which was budgeted in last year's budget for that. So.
Okay, that's good. And to my previous question, is there a plan for $2 million in additional expenses that would necessitate that kind of tax increase immediately? Like, what is the increase in the fiscal year 21 budget relative to the fiscal year 20 budget?
Well,
Are you not allowed to say that? I'm not trying to be a wise guy. I know the budget.
I get it. And generally, the increases are for additional staff and for improvements and capital purchases.
Okay.
Road improvements, there's $350,000 allocated just towards roads from the general fund in this budget.
And would those road improvements be would that be a consistent expenditure year over year in the operating budget, or is that things like a bridge project or something that might be a one-time expenditure?
No, it's anticipated to be year over year.
Okay. And you mentioned 350. Does that total of all those things get to 2 million, or is it short of 2 million? And the thought is, well, we should get to 2 million because there's going to be other things that we might need to plan for on down the line.
My understanding is that without any increase, if we continue to do that, we don't have any more reserve fund in the balance at the end of the year, which is a dangerous situation.
Sure.
And that's what the consultants recommended to us. After, I don't know how many years, 2 years, we would be below, we'll fall into the negative, essentially be bankrupt. So part of that increase is to make sure we have enough reserve fund, because you never know what's going to happen. And that's been recommended. We have, an ordinance or a resolution that we need to have an 8 to 10% reserve fund at the end of the year. So I think this budget would have 10.6?
It's 10.25 with the amendments that were from last meeting. So the year-end projected 2021 fund balance is $1,435,112.
Okay.
And this information will be available once we advertise it.
Okay, and it like that would be on the website that we can all get to. Okay.
And if I may, I would just add that we have had a structural deficiency over the past several years since Lockheed left. We had a hole in the budget that's never been really addressed.
Okay. Just one more thing. So going forward, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought when I was listening to you. Oh yeah. So I mean, I certainly wouldn't stand up here and tell you that I would want to cut those guys or, snow removal or that. I mean, clearly we need those kinds of services everywhere, especially in a town that, like Newtown. But the one question I do have with regard to reductions is, and again, if it's in here, I apologize, but I had a hard time following some of this in here. Were there any, it would have been helpful to see, just my 2 cents, this is what last year's budget was, revenues, expenditures total, this is what we're proposing, so you could compare them year over year. Were there recommendations or suggestions to reduce anything? Like, there's got, I'm not saying that, I want to be clear, I'm not saying let's eliminate a police officer or let's eliminate vehicle maintenance on police cruisers. Definitely not what I'm saying, but I'm wondering if there are other parts of the budget that are not maybe quite as necessary, like perhaps recreation, that while those are things that in a town, again, like Newtown, they'd be great to have, if you're in a situation where you're looking at maybe instead of 178% tax increase, maybe you get it down to, I don't know, maybe you get down to double digits instead of triple digits. Are there reductions like that that can be made, or has that already been looked at and passed on?
At previous meetings, I think several times, we did discuss certain items that could be cut and tried to come up with a reduction. What we ended up doing, instead of cutting anything, basically, was to cut the reserve fund down to 10%. So that's where we got rid of the 2 mills
Gotcha.
in revenue, kept everything in there that was recommended, like 3 more police officers and 3 more police cars, more hires, salary increases, trucks for public works, and so on, road work, and all those things we could make some cuts in. And that's what I think the discussion should be amongst residents. What do they want? What would they like to cut? What would they be satisfied with? And I was surprised to find out, talking to a lot of residents, that, for example, road work, I thought, paving roads, I thought was very important. And I wanted that in the budget, but a lot of people were telling me that, well, that could wait a year maybe, or 2. So it's really surprising when you start talking to people what kinds of cuts they recommend.
Sure. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Anyone that hasn't been want to come up? Okay. Go ahead.
I would like to thank that gentleman. He really made me think on a couple of things. One of the things I would like to know the numbers of that you mentioned, $1 million assessed homes. How many of them are there in Newtown? And how many are there in the 500,000 and how many in less than that? And then how many taxpayers there are who totally pay, and what percentage of them live in those $1 million houses, so then we know who is genuinely affected by this situation. I would give, pause for a second for you guys to think about that.
What was your last question?
My last question is, what percentage of people, of the population, falls below that $500,000 homes? And who is the majority there that's going to be affected? I agree with you, $26 a month is not much for some people. You're lucky to be there, but there are a lot of people who are not. So consideration should be given both ways.
Well,
the gentleman also brought up a point about, and you also did, about the school district receiving police services, fire department. Besides the taxes, they get these services for free from the township. Shouldn't the township be talking to them about taking a percentage of the taxes they collect for the services you provide them?
I didn't get that question.
So, and another very important thing that the gentleman brought up, and I respect him for that, he's got a lot of years on it. The fundamental question out here is, the consultant was brought in last year. His study was submitted sometime in February this year. Things have changed, right? And the situation has changed, the economy has changed. A lot of situations where parents have children at home and are teaching in school, and the school is saving a lot of money off that at the moment. Plus, the usage of roads right now is very low. No doubt the planning should be for the future, but I also want to see something that tells me that this $2 million that's being collected, what new services are you providing? What additional services are you providing the township residents for this $2 million? Is there any service like that?
Yes, there's 3 additional police officers. There is an extra, probably mile and a half of road that would be paved. And there's also equipment for snow removal and for road maintenance.
How are we doing this?
Is it Mr. Mahat?
It's Kamat.
Kamal?
Yeah.
Mr. Kamal. A part of the budget, we are also going to consider hiring an assistant township manager to focus on economic development, which would also bring in new businesses, not restaurants or bars, but more on a larger sector scale that will provide more revenue to the township so that it would essentially supplement the hole that Mr. Fisher was talking about that Lockheed left. When we do that based upon hiring that plan that you're asking about, what do I get for my $2 million? Mr. Lewis said about the services, there's also someone that's going to come in, partner with Mr. Lewis, partner with my committee, Economic Development Committee, which you're more than happy to join as well if you'd like to put a resume in. But I think that you also have to recognize that we do have a way of getting out of it, and there might be an option down the road of reducing this millage. But right now, at this moment in time, we have to look at making sure that we don't go into a hole where we are bankrupt, right? Where we don't have a general fund that we can dip into, because essentially the township's been dipping into the general fund for what, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
So that's like dipping into your own savings account over time, right? And then eventually it's depleted, right? So that's essentially the same type of situation that the township's essentially looking at. So that would be a part of helping to give you an idea of what the services are or the plan that we have in order to essentially give you a reason for the $2 million, what you get for your $2 million besides the police services, the fire, the public works, the road paving, and so forth.
Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying the fire and police services are not.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying on top of those services, you said what else do we get? And I was saying something. You're basically saying what's new, and that's the new part.
So my point to that particular point of view that you have on the economic development part, basically you're saying you are going to raise taxes on the residents to get an economic development situation where we can attract businesses here, and we pay for that, and if it's not successful, we continue paying, but if it's successful, what do the residents get back from that?
It will be successful, Mr. Kamal. Newtown is a very desirable location for a lot of businesses that I've been talking to that would love to be here, but we have to go through the necessary steps to get to that point. So when we do get there, I'll be happy to share that with you, and we'll go from there.
And to just let you know, from that gentleman's standpoint, he's also worked in government, and I've worked in government too.
Sure.
And I work for the Treasury Department, and I know budgeting very, very well.
Very good. Thank you.
So the key point I'm pointing out is that this budget and this increase at this time is ill-considered.
I'm sorry, Mr.
It's ill-considered, because
Okay.
there are other ways that you could raise that same money, like I'm pointing out. The township provides services to Wrightstown as well. We get some money from them.
We do.
And if we have the increase, it should be equally divided between both the districts. The school district also is receiving services from this township in tertiary ways. Yes, there are kids, but they're also the school district with school teachers and everybody else. And these services should be paid for and accounted for. So some part of the taxes collected from the school district should come back to the township.
Okay.
Similarly, from the county perspective. And what the gentleman was talking about was a CAFRA report, Common Accounting Financial Report for all townships and local governments, state and local governments. In that report, if you see the county report, you can ask for certain things back to the township for the services you provide the county.
Mr. Kamal, you've impressed me. I think that we do have a seat open on the Finance Committee.
Yes.
As well, along with economic. No, Mr. Kamal. Hey, you have talent. You, along with Mr. Siemens, have talent. And a part of what we love on the board here is our talent. We hear a lot from our residents when there's a problem, right? we never hear from you to offer your assistance. And a part of what we'd love from you is to sit on these committees, give your advice, give your input, because then we have more of a perspective. And if you have that talent from working in Treasury Department, I think you should be here with us, working in this building.
We actually sent you that petition, if you read it.
I did read it.
We wrote most of it.
I did. When you said, "Did you get it?" I said, "Thank you."
Yeah.
I was the one that said, "Thank you."
Okay. So, and on the snow removal part, how have you been managing it all these years? Because we are between two townships, Yardley on that side and Doylestown and I think Wrightstown on this side. And did we have a dump truck before? Because we are thinking of investing $450,000 roughly after the 12 total payments.
Yes. We have a public works department, and they have trucks. We have to replace them on a recycling basis. But, I mean, I've never heard complaints about streets not being plowed. Maybe you do, Micah, but I haven't.
No, we get complaints, but the thing is that the truck that we're replacing is a truck from 1997.
Okay.
So that truck has lived its life, and it's starting to cost more to own than it's worth anymore.
Good point. I wish that was there in the report.
Well, I think all this will be advertised, Mr. Kamal. That's why we're trying to make sure that residents have all the full information to make better, or at least understand it completely, so that when you come back to the meeting, you have questions, we can have a proper dialogue.
All right. And then, you know, we are looking at the various costs, and then we are looking at, there's a surplus last year, and you in your own statement said, you know, there's been a difficult time for the last 3 or 4 months, but we are seeing the earned income tax pick up again with more people working from home and things like that. Shouldn't we give it a chance to work for a certain period and see what the results are, so that we may not have to do this tax increase and close the deficit?
I think what we're seeing with the earned income tax is a volatility. And yeah, maybe we've had a good couple of 2-3 months, but it's so volatile. Can we depend on that?
Well, only data will tell you that. You have to give it a couple of cycles before you come to that conclusion.
And I wanted to correct you on one thing you said about the consultant. They arrived here in February. They did months and months of work with us. They presented their findings in September.
September, okay. I'm sorry, I
okay.
read it as
That's quite all right. I'm just want to get the record clear. And now I'm forgetting. There was one other comment I wanted to make. If I remember it, I'll say it later. Something in response to what you said.
Okay.
Not arguing, just filling in some blanks.
I'm not here to argue. I'm
No.
you know, I'm just putting a point of view.
I know what it was. Mr. Oxley was not being facetious. We really are looking for talented people. We will have a few vacancies on our finance committee coming up in the coming year, and in December we'll be accepting applications. So.
Absolutely. If I came off as being like I was being disingenuous. That's not really the case. All right. I'm happy to. We're happy to take input up here from the residents. Always.
I've sat in New York City meetings, and I've been beaten left, right, and center in open company meetings. So I don't think that's disingenuous. But here's the part. The other thing that you have to look at, and I suggest you have a survey of all the residents. You know, I don't know what the total number of residents are who are tax paying in this township.
Is it 20,000, 19,000? Yeah. 20,000.
A survey should be run to see how they look at it, because advertising this, it doesn't get everybody's attention.
Well, Mr. Mack runs a ton of surveys. I'm sure that he might be able to
There was
do
a
that.
survey.
He got less results than we did.
I'm not being facetious again.
No.
I mean, that's your thing, right?
The consultants did a survey.
The consultants did a survey.
And it was a very good survey. About, 500 responses or so? More than any survey I could do. So.
Okay.
But, you know, you make a point about your petition made some recommendations, and I remember another resident came in here with lots of other recommendations. And he was a former CPO, and
CFO.
there
He
are
was a
other
former CFO. He was on
financial
the-
experts here who may not be on our committees, but they have submitted some very good ideas. And I'm just wondering, those ideas are getting lost in the system here. They're not being looked at in a methodical way to see if anything in those suggestions makes sense for us. Somebody, I don't know if it was one of your recommendations about the different kind of dump truck or something, or
Yes.
cheaper
It was-
Chinese version, maybe, I don't know. But, there may be ways in which we can learn from those recommendations in the same way we learn from our committees. But there's no mechanism for us to review if we three of us were to get together and look at that, it would have to be a public meeting.
The international dump truck, I just happen to know it because I run procurement for, MTA. So that's why I knew about it. It's not, what you're looking for is the Mercedes of all dump trucks. So that's the reason I brought it up, other than that.
I know, I used to have a Mercedes, it was pretty good.
Yeah, this is a
Now I have
Ferrari
a
you're
Jeep,
talking
so
about.
I don't know.
It's the Ferrari. Most of those items on that thing are Ferraris that no normal commercial use would use those. But anyway, the other part is, have you done a survey of the local townships other than our township outside of in Bucks County and Montgomery County to see how many of them are doing the same thing or have deferred increases? Because I can tell you the state of New York is cut back in every possible way. And I know that Middletown Township and most of the Montgomery townships around here as well have actually frozen their budget for this year. They are not doing any increases. We are the only exception right now.
Mr. Kamal, really quick question for you. Suppose we don't do anything, right?
Okay.
And as you know, our general fund is where it is, and we're in a pretty interesting position. And we don't do anything this year, and then we do something next year, and we're in a worse off situation. What would you say then?
I wouldn't let it get there. I would think a little more creatively.
Okay.
For right now, for example, in your road fund or your debt fund,
Okay.
you refinance for 2.51.
Sure.
I think you refinance about February, March, April, sometime around there.
Do we refinance?
Or, you paid back your bonds, you retired your bonds, and you took a loan from TD Bank.
What we have now is a fixed loan at 2.51% on the township.
Correct.
Right.
And the rates for state and local governments has fallen to 1.5 or less than that.
Well, send me that bank.
Please, I will do that, okay? And then, right now, one of the ways creative to look at it is, if you need the roads, it's a good time to borrow, because the CARES Act also has municipality support at less than 1%. Most people didn't apply for it. There are lots of creative ways you can get there. You don't have to raise taxes alone. That's not the only option.
This CARES Act falls through the Commonwealth, I would imagine, right? And then falls through us, falls down to us.
Yes, and
Okay, so then to the municipalities. So I would imagine that we would be talking to our state representatives and state senators for that
Correct.
type of, and let me assure you, Mr. Kamal, I've already had that conversation with some of them. And until we get those dollars, that's another, it's up in the air, right?
we have to apply for the dollars. The dollars are guaranteed unless our great Treasury Secretary now sends it back into the general fund, and we can't access it anymore. So you have a very short span of time to get that.
Yeah, if we were to do nothing and go into deficit spending, that pretty much will affect our bond rating, and borrowing money will be pretty difficult for us to do, or either that or at high rates. Not only that, but you had mentioned something about our arrangement with Wrightstown Township. Well, that's not a guarantee. It's only a guarantee if we provide services for them. If we were to lose or not have enough police officers, they could just call Northampton Township to take care of that, and then we would lose $800,000 in revenue. So by doing nothing, it may cost us a lot in the long run, besides just going into deficit spending. And I'm not saying besides just going into deficit spending, that's a major thing in itself. But it would also would affect us borrowing money, because they're going to see what our bond rating is, which will go down, and they're going to see that we're high risk to repay that loan. Then if we lose 800,000 plus the million that we've already lost between Lockheed and other townships that have instituted a EIT, earned income tax, and it's only a matter of time that some surrounding townships like Lower Makefield will institute one, we're going to be down that $2 million in no time. So it's hedging for the future, but if we don't, we have a lot more to lose in regards to revenue.
I totally get it. But at the same time, what we need to look at is creatively increasing revenue without taxes being the sole source. That's what we're talking about here. And we can do that creatively without having to raise taxes. And in this year, and probably be able to come out on a plus. That's why we sent you that proposition to give us a year to help you get there. So,
Thank you, Mr. Kamal.
all right? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to complain a little bit. Let me start out by thanking you guys who volunteer. Volunteering in a community is one of the most important things we have. I live in Newtown Crossing. You guys know about our association and our low dues. That's because, unfortunately, a few people just volunteer. And working together, we save a lot of money. When you tell somebody, we're going to raise your taxes 178%, I'm going to try to keep it simple. Well, let's see. We were doing okay at 100% for a while, maybe losing a little at a time. But now we're going to jump 1 3/4, where we could build a whole township on that money of what we pay from those taxes. So it's hard to grasp why this jump has to be so big. Now, we run low on money and our bond rates change, I understand that, but why are we spending so much money? I'd like to see, and it's probably there in your records, go back 5 years, break it down to what we want to spend this year, show us where the changes are occurring. Or is our staff growing? Are we getting less people? Well, we lost Lockheed Martin, but we're gaining 20 or 30 new businesses right here, middle of Newtown. Of course, Newtown gets all the commercial stuff. The rest of our 3 or 4 town planship just gets residential. So, we have a little extra burden there, but there's got to be more income coming in. Somebody told me, maybe it was on your thing, Mr. Mack, your group, that you go online for, that we have a lot of people who worked out of town in the cities in Philadelphia and New York. Now we get their earned income tax, okay, which we didn't have before. So I don't see how we're losing a lot of money. Maybe going back to the budget, we can see that. If we see the changes, we'll understand better what you're trying to push for. I'm not sure we're saying you're wrong. Most people don't understand it. It blows their mind. We don't run our budgets that way. We can't. We deal with what we have. When we cut back, we cut back. We go without, we go without. We have extra money, then, we kind of throw it around a little bit. That's the way human nature is. Now, going back about my complaining a little bit, okay, and it's caused me a little mistrust. I don't come here a lot and talk about things. I came when Newtown Crossing had a problem with a builder, okay. This goes to earned income tax, okay. A year and a half ago, I always pay my tax and I have people do them for me. So I paid my earned income tax. I did not get all my refund back, which was on my form. Nobody told me why. So I called them and asked them. They go, oh, we don't tell people that. I thought the lady was kidding around, so I jostled back and forth. And nicely she finally said, well, give me your account number, I'll look it up. And she goes, how about we call you back in a few days? So I knew she saw something. So 3 or 4 days later, they call back and say, Mr. Garber, we're going to send you the money back. I said, well, what was the problem? And they go to me, oh my God, Mr. Garber, we're giving your money back. What else do you want? I want transparency. Okay, I talked to the gentleman from Keystone here once. I called him twice, more left messages. I don't get a call back. He's never resolved the problem of why we don't have transparency. I've talked to the people in Keystone again. They're a lot more polite. I appreciate that. I don't have any hassles. This year I didn't get a refund. Okay, so I called them. They go, we send refunds out on Wednesdays. So next Wednesday we'll send it out to you. Well, if I didn't call, would I wait longer to get it? If I make a mistake on my taxes, I guarantee you they will contact me and show me why I owe them more money. So why can't they just tell us, Mr. Garber, you made a mistake. This is why we're not returning your money. I don't think that's asking for a lot. That's transparency. Okay, we earn the money, and then we give money to the townships and the schools to provide services for us. I don't have a problem with that, but I expect transparency and honesty. Keystone doesn't have a right to tell me why they won't get my money back. I don't care if they're ordered. Suppose I never called and complained. Where would the money go? Would you guys get half and the school get half? Would somebody else just take it and not account for it? And the same mean I can't. And what annoyed me was I raised this question in the fall before election. Sorry, except for one board member that was not here then. Not one of you, a single one of you, answered my question or tried to. Our township manager kept jumping in and telling me, Mr. Garber, that's a county issue. Okay, my neighbor, who used to be a supervisor, was a supervisor when they started to earn income tax. He said that's not correct. Every township has a representative. That was the end of that. Came back the next meeting after election, raised the same question. I think the chairman said, well, you know, we didn't realize what the problem was. What would you like? And then the manager again said, Mr. Garber, this is a county issue. And I said, the wrong answer. And I said, I have on my cell phone, I went on your website. On page 2, it said, Earned Income Tax Committee. And it said, Mr. John Mack. Mr. Mack then spoke up. Nobody else volunteered him. Are we protecting each other? Who represents me? Why did nobody speak up for 2 meetings? I don't understand that. Now, on your good side, I appreciate your little website stuff we go on. We have virtual meeting and talking on learning stuff. That's part of transparency. I don't have to agree with it. And I like to be devil's advocate because people are afraid to ask questions. Okay? Now, when we have a budget, nobody wants to cut the police. You know why? You put a face on them. We need them. But I have an attitude against unions that work for governments. They just grow, 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 grow. And when there's an issue, they make it personal. When a cop does his job, that's personal. Okay, when a union says we need 5 policemen for every lieutenant or something, that's union stuff, just like the schools do. I went to school, you had 1 principal. And I got a principal, you got 3 or 4 vice principals, you got blah, blah, you know. I think policemen are better trained, better educated, probably more fit for the job today. They probably need less managers. I think maybe paperwork destroys a lot of their time out in the street. And I'd like to see a little more positive contact with our police. They do a good job. We don't really know them. Most people know an officer when he pulls you over. That gives you a little bit of a negative attitude. And it shouldn't be that way. There are people just like us. Okay, and there's always 1 or 2 bad guys in a big group, but most of them they're there when we need them. That's good. I don't want to knock them. I knock the position sometimes of a union regulation, not the people. Okay? People shame me when I talk this way. Hey, I'm 72, I'm retired. I don't care anymore. By the time people start speaking up. So I'd like the board to think about Keystone and have them become more transparent. I have a right to know when you take more of my money than you're supposed to according to your forms and don't want to answer to me why I can't have it back. I shouldn't have to call and go through all the hassle. The same thing with this now. If we could have some kind of back look over 4 or 5 years of how we spent money in each department, don't make it personal, with the township employees and the policemen and the fire chief. A lot more money spent on other things. Where are we becoming deficient? Why do we need this big increase? I guarantee you, when we understand more, like you're telling us we should, you'll have less problems. We'll be behind you a lot more than we are now. That's what we want from government. And I agree, very few people volunteer, do the grunt work, and you don't get much credit for it. So I do thank you all for that. But it doesn't mean I can't have different opinions, speak up, you know. And I think someday still we should have communication with the police departments. I have a lot of questions. They aren't personal questions. The things that we don't know, that maybe we could have good input. What do we know? We watch Blue Blood, Chicago PD. Is that how we we figure out what a policeman is? That's badly distorted. You know, it's like John Wayne stuff, same thing, and war pictures, they're badly distorted. So, you guys could help us a lot. Don't mean to ramble on. I'm not as well organized as some of the gentlemen here, but you know, I want transparency. We all want transparency. Then that we'll be closer together. That's true with most things in life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gerber. But I would say that Police Chief Hearn has done a good job of trying to do community policing. And we did have a town hall where he spoke to the community. When was that? June, I believe, where residents were allowed to come in and actually ask the police chief anything. Lieutenant Harris was here as well, and many of the other members of the police force were here. So I know that they're trying, and they're willing to, and Police Chief Hearn is willing to talk to anybody at any time. So you're more than welcome to reach out to them. I'm sure they'll be happy to have that dialogue that you desire.
15 or 20 years ago, we had a police academy. And Mr. Officer Forsyth, I think, ran it. One of the people ran it. And that was great. About 15, 20 people came out. It was 8 or 9 or 10 weeks. We got to learn a lot. Which, if they didn't join that, I wouldn't have learned. You know, my background is mostly sociology. Worked with delinquent kids in New York City. I loved it. The kids were spontaneous. You never know what's going to go on. But I like that kind of action, that kind of stuff. You get married, come down here, work in the business. I hated business, but I had to make a go of it, and I survived. You know, kept my house, everything else. So I don't want a hard struggle. But again, it's not that hard to put more things out in the open. And I do, Mr. Mack, I do appreciate what you're doing on the internet. It gives me a chance to interact. If you remember, a few times I said, I'm going to play devil's advocate. And I throw some things out people are afraid to speak about. That's the only way to break the ice. Most things are wrong, or overblown, misstated. And so if we break the ice more and talk about real issues, we're not that much different. Really, we're not. I think government likes us to be fighting each other. That way we're distracted, but that's not what I want. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I do have one correction. The ad in the paper, if the budget were to be authorized for advertisement, would be on Monday.
Monday?
But the budget itself would be on the internet, hopefully by tomorrow.
And that's for all the public to see?
Yes.
When does so the 20 days starts on Monday then?
Mr.
Correct, yeah, when it goes in the paper.
December 20th is the 20th day. That's a Sunday. We're scheduled to meet the 22nd. So it will be enough time.
Good. Anything else from the board in regards to this? Okay. Seeing none, we have a motion for the 2021 budget, authorization to advertise adoption of the preliminary budget. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Passes 4-1. Okay. We have no minor approvals, no public hearings. Reports of committees, boards, and commissions. Board members, Mr. Fisher.
I'll make it brief, considering the discussion we had, and tomorrow's Thanksgiving Day. Back last Tuesday, November 17th, we had a economic development seminar with the Finance Committee and the Economic Development Committee. Stephen Ray was from Econsult Solutions was the presenter for the first part of the meeting, and he covered about 10 areas of interest relating to Lots of ideas about economic development, things like collaborating across municipalities, regionalization, grant writing. Let me find one or two more here. Shared office space, reconceptualizing the Newtown Business Commons, things like that. And he said if he had one thing that he could do to help businesses, he would suggest supporting festivals after the COVID recovery starts. So having neighborhood promotions for the business community once things start to open up and we can have people come to restaurants again. And that was one of his primary things. Then the second part of the meeting, we did have a discussion about the budget as far as people understood it. We referred them to this evening's information session. I think Mr. Kamath was on the phone call. But it was a productive discussion as well. And I think maybe we've got some ideas that you were able to put in the petition and give us some guidance. So that was what we talked about. John was on. I don't know if you had anything to add.
All right, thank you, Dennis. Mr. Mack.
Just one thing from the the Environmental Advisory Council meeting on the 16th of November. One member, Mark Stout, is resigning and he's moving to Virginia. And so I believe that creates two openings, and a resident attended that meeting who may apply for one of the openings anyway. The council plans to buy 200 pamphlets on native plants to distribute to residents, mostly HOA members, at $1 per pamphlet. They would like to confirm the process by which they can do this. I assume the Board of Supervisors must approve this, and that the vendor should submit an invoice to the township for payment. Is that the proper way to do that, Mr. Lewis?
Well, it would need to be a budgeted expense.
We have a line item in there for the
Correct.
Economic Advisory Council, Environmental Advisory Council.
Correct, if they haven't used it yet, I don't know off the top of my head. And then they would submit a proposal to the board would approve it, and then a purchase order would be generated, and an invoice would need to be submitted before the vendor would get paid.
All right. I'll try to remember that process. A major item that was discussed was a resolution that the Delaware River Keeper Network is asking townships to pass that requests the Delaware River Basin Commission to disapprove what's called the Dock 2 project that has to do with the transportation of liquid natural gas. And I'll defer that a little more details under new business, if that's okay. That's all I have right now.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have the upcoming programs for Parks and Recreation. We have online Mahjong class, an active karate class, kids wheel class, and acrylic pouring. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Oxley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a memo from the Economic Development Committee from their last meeting, along with collaboration from the Planning Commission. So it reads as follows. Planning Commission Chairman Alan Fidler and Township Planner Michelle Fountain attended today's Economic Development meeting to discuss reviewing and possibly expanding permitted uses in our business districts and what was recommended by eConsult Solutions in its report. Mr. Fidler and Mrs. Fountain both agree that if the Planning Commission and EDC are to explore this further, the first step would be to gauge the support of the Board of Supervisors for changes to our zoning, in particular in the LI and OLI zoning districts. A good first step might be to ask the Planning Commission, with the aid of its professionals, to consider possible expansion of uses as has been done in nearby office parks such as Horsham and Upper Dublin. Both these parks have added residential uses, particularly high-density rental residential uses, along with service businesses that would support the new residential uses, restaurants, groceries, barbers, etc. One way to approach this might be with an overlay district in the LI zoning district, which would keep the new residential and service businesses separate from the surrounding median density residential uses. EDC would also ask that our supervisor, me, liaison, explore this with you gentlemen and possibly charge the Planning Commission with input from the EDC to study this overlay concept further. So, Mr. Chairman, as you know that the EDC has been working effortlessly to figure out ways that we can provide additional revenue to the township. So this might be one of the first steps. I know that we were looking and waiting for the Bucks County Planning Commission's 5-year comprehensive plan, but I believe that's been postponed based upon COVID. So we'd like to take these steps in order to, get something started rather than waiting, just because I know that a lot of us on the board, along with all our residents, are very eager to figure out what new revenue sources we will have in this township. So this would be a great step, because I know that a lot of what we want or envisioning, some of the zoning will have to be changed in order to get that done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you're absolutely right. The business commons is kind of antiquated and needs to be revamped, and there's a lot of possibilities there. So that's something that maybe working with Michelle Fountain, I think there was a plan in the past, basically a pedestrian-friendly plan that was done by a previous planner, but maybe Michelle could pick that up again, take a look at it. And I don't know if we'll get it on our plate for December, but maybe that's something good to start off January with.
Thank you.
Excellent idea. Thank you. Okay. Let's see, moving right along. We have no report from the engineer tonight, so we'll go into our solicitor's report. Mr. Sander.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item on our report this evening is a request to the board to authorize the advertisement of an ordinance approving a cable franchise agreement with Verizon. The previous cable franchise agreement with Verizon expired, and Verizon requested that it be renewed. The independent consultant hired by the Bucks County Consortium, of which Newtown Township is a member, negotiated long and hard with Verizon. It guarantees 5%, which is the maximum of their gross income as a franchise fee to the township. It also is for a 5-year term and includes all of the other terms and conditions that the consultant felt were as favorable as possible to the municipalities in the consortium. They have recommended that each of the members of the consortium adopt and approve the contract, and in order to do so, we must enact an ordinance approving that franchise agreement. Tonight, we need your authorization, and a motion is in order to authorize the advertisement of that ordinance.
So this is ordinance of Newtown Township, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, authorizing the authorizing the cable televised franchise agreement between Newtown Township and Verizon, Pennsylvania LLC, repealing all inconsistent ordinances or parts thereof, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date. Mr. Sander, is this the one that also involved Lower Makefield, or was that?
No, that's Comcast.
Okay.
This is
the consortium, and Comcast is the non-consortium.
correct.
Okay,
Correct.
Gotcha. All right, do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions from the board?
I'm a little confused. It says we are allowed to assess a franchise fee of up to 5%. Okay, and then it says the percentage in the new agreement is the same as in your current Verizon agreement, what is
5%.
the current?
5%.
So it's going to be 5%?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Questions from the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0.
Second item on our report is the zoning hearing board cases that are going to be heard on December 3rd by the zoning hearing board. The board heard Mr. Fiddler review these cases, and I've outlined them for the board in an attachment that appeared in the packet. Is there any interest in taking a position on any of the cases?
Hearing none, I think you got your answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General fund balance as of this evening is $2,654,117. Plan expiration for the board with no action required. I have two quick items under my agenda. One is just sort of substitute for the engineer. It has to do with the Canerco-Rambo subdivision planning module. Remington Vernick has reviewed the planning module prepared by Holmes Cunningham Engineering for the Canerco-Rambo subdivision and has found the submission to be complete. The application contains 6 EDUs which are allocated in the township's connection management plan. We recommend the board approve the planning module and authorize signature by the township manager for submission to DEP.
Motion to approve?
Such a motion.
And I second it.
The motion is second. Any questions from the board? From the public? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0.
Second item I have under my report, Mr. Chairman, is the PennDOT Winter Services Agreement for the years 2020 through 2025. PennDOT has sent us an updated winter service agreement for those roads. It's for the township to maintain those roads through the inclement weather during the winter months. The roads that are included are portions of Route 332, 413, and 532. The annual payments equate to a total of $104,901 over those 5 years. So the appropriate motion would be motion to approve the 5-year winter services agreement with PennDOT.
Have such a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions from the board?
Question. Mr. Lewis, these terms agreeable to you as per previous agreements?
Yeah, it's consistent with the previous agreements. It's about a $600 a year increase.
Okay.
It's sort of take it or leave it. The issue is if we don't plow those roads, PennDOT really doesn't get to them, and then we just end up doing it anyway, so.
Okay. Thank you.
So it is us, it's a payment to us to
For us to
plow.
take care of
That's
us.
correct.
Do their job, yeah.
It's shown under the budget, under the PennDOT plowing contract, the yearly revenues from that.
Okay. Any further questions from the board? From the public? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0.
That's all I have under my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Mack, minutes, bills list, and reports.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the November 10, 2020 Board of Supervisors meeting.
Have a motion to have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions from the board? From the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0.
Okay, for the bills list, I make a motion to approve the bills list dated November 25th, 2020, totaling $133,002.04.
Motion to have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions from the board?
I have one question on page 9, the Remington and Vernick Engineers, a fee of $13,276.50 related to the Lower Dolington Trail. I think they've submitted some other invoices for that, and are we ready? I guess we're all ready to do this trail in the spring, I assume?
That's the goal, yes.
Okay.
That's the goal, yes.
We have the money for that.
Yeah, it's all out of rec capital money. It's
Okay.
money contributed to the township by developers.
Great. Does that go just up to the transmission lines?
Well,
The base bid will go up to the transmission lines. We're also including 2 other alternate bids to run the rest of the way up to Upper Silver Lake.
Okay. Very good. That's my only question.
Any further questions on the bills list? From the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0.
Finally, I move that we approve the interfund transfers as per the bills list dated November 25th, 2020, totaling $212,013.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions from the board? From the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes, well, I'll assume it passes 5-0. I didn't hear any ayes. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Mack. We'll go into our second session of public comment. Anyone who has anything to say, please come up to the podium.
I'm good.
Okay. Old business. I just have one item on old business, and it was mentioned earlier, but quick mention again. We are seeking volunteers for a lot of committee positions, so if anyone out there would like to serve on any of the township committees, just send in either a resume or letter of intent stating what committee you'd like to be on, and/or some people do send it that they would like to be on any committee that's available. So if you would get that in, because we are going to go into a reorganization and making new committee appointments, so we just need people to volunteer. So
How would people know which committees there are?
The advertisements will be out on our website in the near future, as we do every year.
Okay.
Olivia's getting them together right now.
And I'll have Olivia's email address to respond to if people...
Yeah, that's correct, yes.
Okay.
All that information will be on there.
Very good. That's all I have for old business. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, not old business, I forgot, I was remiss in my presentation. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
absolutely.
Out there and on the board here, I wish everyone have a happy and safe Thanksgiving.
That's new business.
Yeah, it's kind of new, old, kind of old. I wasn't sure.
I got one better for you. Happy birthday, Mr. Fisher.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Happy birthday.
I was born on Thanksgiving, and it is
They're kidding.
same day tomorrow.
No, excellent.
You
Happy
have a
birthday.
great party every year.
Yes,
Yeah.
I get two
Happy birthday.
like big parties with gifts and food.
put candles in it.
Yeah. Well, do you pardon a turkey, maybe, or?
I've never been given that responsibility.
Okay. Any other old business? New business? I think, John, you have something?
Yeah, I did distribute this draft resolution regarding the liquid natural gas transportation. According to the Environmental Advisory Council, millions of gallons of this liquid natural gas will be transported via antiquated train container cars within a few miles of Newtown. These trains were designed 50 years ago and proven unsafe to carry LNG, and thus there was a national ban against them. However, President Trump issued an executive order allowing the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration to allow it. 14 state attorney generals are challenging this rule, including Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and Delaware. So I distributed this. I just wanted to bring this to your attention because on December 9th, I think that's the day that we're having our
Yes.
next meeting.
Yes.
Between 10 and 1 p.m., the DRBC might vote on this. So, of course, if they vote and okay it, there's no sense in us doing any kind of resolution. But if they don't vote, we still have an opportunity to pass such a resolution if that's what is the board's decision. So I just wanted to bring this up so that you can get familiar with this issue and take a look at the draft resolution that was distributed.
So I have a question. They're voting on not doing it via rail? Is the alternative to do it via pipeline?
Well,
Or are they saying via nothing?
To tell you the truth, I didn't read the whole resolution myself yet, so.
Just curious.
But I think the main issue was by rail. I don't know if the truck routes are, a hazard in our area, or the trucks might be safer. So there's a lot of discussion about unsafe rail cars. That's about all I know about it.
Do you know
Thank you.
that this was brought up a few years ago? I thought the exact same thing was brought up
Was
in
it?
regards to pipeline.
I thought it was pipeline.
Yeah, pipeline, yes, okay. How,
I'd be shocked if they were against pipeline and rail transport.
Yeah.
That would be shocking to me.
I mean, we already have some pipeline running through Newtown underground already.
Liquid natural gas goes through pipeline?
It is natural gas, no pipeline. Yeah, I don't
That's
know.
natural
Liquid,
gas, not liquid.
yeah, not liquid, yeah.
All right. So I guess we just have to monitor it. How close to Newtown will this be?
Well, I guess down by
Woodburn.
Woodburn Road
Barn
there.
Road, no? Okay. So what about the townships along there, like Middletown
Middletown,
Township?
yeah.
or-
Well,
Lower
I
Main-
don't have
Lower
a
Main.
list of the townships that have already maybe taken action. I could get that.
Yeah, I think they did mention it.
Are they against
There
liquefied
were a couple.
petroleum for barbecue grills, or is this
It's
just
for
getting it to a
export. It's
barbecue
actually
grills?
for export, and that's why this is a port.
For export.
bill
So we
that-
export it to other countries
Yeah,
that are
like
against.
China.
All right. Just,
I don't know where it's going to be exported, but it's for export. It's not for even use by Americans. So there you go.
Any other new business? We don't have any need for an executive session, do we, Mr. Sander?
No, Mr. Chairman, we do not.
Signing machine there.
All right, so without objection, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Thank you.
everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Happy
everybody.
gobble gobble.
Thanks for
Happy
coming.
Thanksgiving.